What happened while we were away brought to you by Meeting with the Saudis. President Trump was greeted in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia this morning by the absolute full Monty of a state reception featuring an Air Force One escort by Saudi fighters, literal rolling out of the royal carpet, and a McDonald's truck. President Trump and Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman announced Saudi Arabia's $600 billion commitment to investment in the United States, as well as bilateral economic and defense deals. Back at home, inflation cooled again in April, as prices on things like gas, appliances, and overall energy came down year over year. By some measures, inflation is down to its lowest point since 2021. The calls for the COVID jab to be taken down, at least from the childhood vaccine schedule, are increasing. Over the past 24 hours, representatives like Chip Roy and Marjorie Taylor Greene have called for the jab to be taken off the childhood schedule. And FDA Commissioner Marty Makary told Charlie Kirk,
"Look, I'd love to see the evidence to show that giving young, healthy children another COVID shot, a sixth COVID booster would help them. But that evidence does not exist. And so we're not just going to rubber stamp things at the FDA. And I don't think you're going to see a push at the CDC to be pushing COVID shots in young, healthy children. That is something that's being discussed right now. I think you're going to see some announcement on that in the coming weeks. But I know they are trying to review all of the scientific data. And guess what? There's no data. There's no good randomized controlled data that the current version, the latest formulation of the COVID shot, is necessary for young, healthy children.
It's just a stutter update, according to a report at Axios. CNN host Joseph Goebbels writes in his new book about Joe Biden that White House staff were so concerned about his physical degradation that they were worried he'd have to use a wheelchair if he were to be elected to a second term. Moloch update. Planned Parenthood released its annual report this week, wherein it bragged about murdering a record 402,200 babies via abortion. The report also said the organization enjoyed $2 billion in revenue. The United States welcomed the first 49 Afrikaner refugees from South Africa yesterday. White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller explains why this administration is happy to take them in.
But what's happening in South Africa fits the textbook definition of why the refugee program was created. This is persecution based on a protected characteristic, in this case race. So this is race-based persecution. The refugee program is not intended as a solution for global poverty, and historically it has been used that way. Wherever there's global poverty or wherever there's dysfunctional governments, then the U.S. refugee program comes in, swoops people up, relocates them to America, and you have multi-generational problems. Even into the second and third generation, you have endemic poverty, you have crime issues, you have integration issues. The U.S. refugee program in America has been a catastrophic failure. I mean, if you look, for example, at the Twin Cities area, I mean, just in terms of markers of educational outcomes, in terms of public safety, in terms of welfare use, I mean, it's been a complete public policy failure. And so this is an example of the president returning the refugee program to what it was intended to be used as.
The first Afrikaner refugees arrived in the States yesterday, smiling and waving American flags. The Episcopal Church, which has happily helped settle other types of so-called refugees, announced yesterday they will not help these Afrikaner refugees, citing their commitment to, quote, racial justice and reconciliation. And they're going to be disbanding their refugee resettlement program at the end of this fiscal year. And finally, this from the Babylon Bee: Satan joins Episcopal Church. And that's what happened while we were away.